Okay. Hey everyone, we are back. Made me laugh. We are back with Wesley. We are going to be talking some more about the US's chart, Pluto in Aquarius, also Aries in the US's chart. Through in case somebody watches this way far down the line, this is 2023 when we're recording this. I should have said that in the other video too. It's May 7th of 2023. So we're going to be looking from 2023 through 2028, 2029, something in there. But before we left the last video, you were about to start talking about more about the meditation that you had that kind of not sparked wanting to do this conversation, but it was something that came to you while you were thinking about what you wanted the conversation to be about. So take it away.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Sally. I so just to preface it, so I was doing a meditation and like what should Ellie and I speak about in regards to like the US's Pluto return. And so I was just kind of like, closing my eyes and whatever I was doing. I saw what I saw in my third eye, mind's eye, was essentially like two energies that were like serpentine in nature, coiling upwards and then coming out like this into the symbol of Aries. And I guess what I'm feeling right now, and it's interesting, like in the previous, actually the first like 28 minutes, I didn't really feel like I was in my power. But right now, as I talk about it, I feel a lot more confident. I don't know why, but it feels good.
But I'm glad about that. I want you to feel good.
Yeah. In the first episode, I mean, the first half of it, I started speaking about how I am like in love with the dragons, and that is a very strong statement to make for someone who has an extensive background within Protestant Christianity, myself.
Yeah.
When I was in fourth grade, I prayed to God, and before my mom, before God, that I wanted to become a pastor. And that a lot of that was like, I think I did that because I saw how much in pain my grandma was, like physically, but also she was a very angry person, and so I assumed that her physical pain caused her to be angry. But later I realized like it's just a lot of the suffering she's had in life. So, but I wanted to become a pastor because I wanted to help people to heal. And I think that, this symbol, this like serpentine symbol coming out into the form of Aries is also like a medical symbol. And I forgot what it was exactly. What was it?
The staff of, okay, I'm gonna pronounce this fucking wrong. Codicus?
Oh, with the C, right? C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similar to, I mean, the rod of Asclepius but when you're talking about actually is more like the staff of Codicus with, or is it I might be saying this wrong. Nobody come at me if that's wrong.
Some people say it's like the rod of Hermes, may also too, right? Like we've read that before.
The Codicus one, yes.
Yeah. And it's like a symbol of healing. It's a symbol of wisdom. It's a symbol of communication, I believe, as well.
Information.
Yeah. And so I guess I shared that Aries is, I think, like, like Aries is really special to me in different ways that I'm still trying to understand. But Aries is like, I guess in esoteric studies, like associated with the head as well, within the human body. And so what it represents is like the cerebral parts of us, like new beginnings, and being able to like go head first into like new beginnings too.
Yeah.
And going back to like the dragon and like serpent energy, it's like I began like a healing journey in 2020 during the pandemic, through like different means, and I started seeing like numbers, and I started seeing this number 46 that I used to see in 2014 like all the time, and then it stopped. Um, and then I started seeing it again like 10 times a day in certain days during the pandemic in 2020. And then one day I was just like, okay, I give up, I surrender. Like, what are you? And then I started seeing all these other numbers that I used to see back in 2014.
Okay.
And it was like these series of numbers that led me towards just like, I would follow the numbers and I would find this really crazy scientific or like spiritual understanding of like how the universe works, or like it was a very interesting stuff. Anyways, yeah, were you gonna say
What I was
something?
gonna say, they were, it was put in your path for a reason.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because where it led me to was just this understanding that like I got this bracelet, and it's a symbol of the Ouroboros,
Oh, I like that.
the dragon or the serpent that eats its head, that eats its tail, and it's like constantly rebirthing.
I like that.
I like it too. Um, and
That's good.
yeah, yeah. It's like, like I would start seeing, I would saw that like this symbol is all over the earth, and like it's in China, it's in like Mexico, it's in Greece, just like in these megalithic like structures, and like inscribed in different ways of understanding.
Mhm.
And it's like the deeper I go, it's just like this, there's all this like dragon reverence and honor. And yeah, and so like I guess like we were talking, like in the middle of our last like the part one, we were talking about being honest about the truth of what we think may be happening within the US. And we haven't even gone past like the first 2 years even. But um, like I came across, like I was watching some YouTube videos about um Quetzalcoatl,
Mhm.
Quetzalcoatl, um, Quetzalcoatl,
I
yeah,
have no fucking clue how to pronounce that.
yeah. Um, and I found this quote that said the name America is derived from the god Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, and in Peru he was called Amaru. From the latter name comes our word America. Amaruca is literally translated land of the plumed serpent. The priests of this god of peace once ruled both Americas. And
So,
so,
like, essentially ruled both North and South America, kind of thing. Is that what it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, Americas have a dragon? Like I've only known about the eastern side, like, because it's like a very prominent thing within many mythologies.
Yeah.
And at least like on the Western, the European, like they all like have like wings and like they're wyverns, and not like more traditional, or like I feel like representative of those within like Eastern mythologies. So I was like, and I know there are good things that we're gonna be talking about, especially with Aries and with Pluto in America.
Yeah.
Well, the Uranus return, or Uranus and Aries, and then
Uranus and Gemini.
Uranus,
Well, that.
Neptune and Aries.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I suppose like going back to that symbol of like these two serpents crossing each other and then coming into like this Aries sign, like I truly believe that I truly believe that
A
um
peacock.
yeah, it's like we're gonna be going into an era of spiritual like revival. Um Reason why I say
Yeah.
this,
Go ahead.
actually I want to hear you. Like I have my thoughts, but
No, no, go ahead. Continue. I just agree. I agree. Yeah. Uh-huh.
and I think this because like so Pluto is going to be destroying things within like these Capricornian structural society, like types of ways. And my understanding with AI, like what was birthed during this Pluto and Aquarius transit, as Saturn also exited Aquarius, is that AI, like artificial intelligence, people have like opened Pandora's box. Like I'm on Twitter all the time, and a lot of people talk about how AI is going to displace many, many people and their jobs, and especially skilled workers who have like knowledge based work.
That, yeah. I mean, you mentioned opening Pandora's box, and I kind of do feel like there's a part of me that feels like we ain't even been born yet with what we've opened. But if we can, I mean, okay, to try to make this go a slightly more positive direction, or that it could go more, the way this could go more positively is we figure out how to work with it,
Right.
rather than it working us. But the thing is,
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll do that.
I mean, I say that we're gonna go through like a spiritual revival and renaissance. Number one is because I just think it's time to like remind people of who the dragons are. And in that process of what I would say is like the status quo, at least like in terms of power, there's like a lot of power with Christianity all over the world that demonizes the serpent and the dragon.
Yeah.
And in a sense, some would view it as rebellion.
Which is very
Aquarius.
Aquarius, yeah.
Yeah. But I say it's like, no, it's not rebellion. It's actually, I'm just trying to remind you about what was here before that.
Yeah.
And it's like, let me go back to like the AI stuff. It's that like so many workers, so many people who invested their time, energy into like knowledge and attaining that knowledge and applying that knowledge within the field and receiving like monetary resources through it are going to have their Capricorn structure is going to start breaking down. Like Pluto is going to be doing that. And I say that spiritual revival and renaissance is going to happen because if the thing that, like, for example, if I was working towards like some kind of job in tech where I need to code all the time, but now AI is like shelling out code, like boom, 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 boom. People who are coding use it all the time already. It's like I see it on Twitter, like once someone's livelihood is gone, and the what do we really have at the end of the day? And like what I personally believe is that it's the only thing we can really go back to is like family. The only thing we can really go back to is like heritage, legacy. Like what have we inherited through the actually like the what is it? Our traditions, like our
Yeah.
yeah, our like cultural heritage, like all of that. And I say revival because it's like a returning to like who we really are, as opposed to what we had to put on in order to participate in society. And I think AI is going to, I'm hoping and I'm trying to build with people towards building structures that help to unleash stories, and then bring those stories into harmony with other people stories. And
Yeah.
yeah, but
And if it could be in it, and if it can be utilized in that way,
mhm.
I think that's a love, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, yeah,
That is, these things, it just kind of depends on how we as a collective decide to use them, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think like Pluto is just doing what it does really well, which is destroying and rebirthing. And I think that it's also a rebirth of like the honor and reverence for dragons, and like that serpentine energy that has been integral in like so many different ancient like spiritual practices and
Hmm.
societies, and that it's not like, I don't call it worship, I call it honor, I call it like a respect that is due. And like, I guess like, what I didn't share in the part one is that I call myself a dragon shaman now.
Okay.
And I like, I think I interface with like a couple of dragons of this like earth.
Okay.
One being like what the most recent one being like Amaru of America,
Okay.
Amaruka. Another being like Tiamat, who is understood to be like this the primordial sea on this earth. Um, and I mean there are other ones, but I'm trying to figure things out with them. Our relationship status. Um,
A relationship status.
yeah. Uh,
You, you mentioned I'm gonna show you all. I'm gonna show you and everybody watching this something. Let me find the date because you bring up spiritual revival.
right.
And okay, let me
So,
okay, so on can you see this okay?
yeah, yeah, I can see. Mhm.
Okay, see right here we have the US's IC,
Mhm.
this line, cusp of the fourth house. And on this day, February 21st of 2026, we'll have transit Saturn and transit Neptune, both at 0 degrees, 46, 47 minutes of Aries. So they'll be conjunct one another, which will kick off another Saturn Neptune cycle. The last one was in 1989. I can't
Mhm.
remember the exact date, but it was when it was in Capricorn. It was when
Mhm.
both planets were in Capricorn.
Yeah.
And so this new cycle would kick off on February 21st of 2026. Um and because Neptune spirituality, Saturn can be the builder, and Aries energy is new, right? That there is something about like there is something with Aries energy about like you could almost think of it in this context. I kind of think of it like jumper cable, or not jumper cables. Maybe that too. That actually might work. But like starting, starting something that
Yeah.
needs to be started. And with this going on right here at the US, as I can see how this particular conjunction and cycle until the next cycle. I want to say this in 2053. I could be wrong about that. Might need to check myself. Um, but that could be a theme for this Saturn Neptune cycle that we're seeing. I could see that at least in this country, at least in the US. I could see that being the case. I do think it could go. I think there could be some other things in play too, but that specifically, that thing you were just talking about, I think that could definitely play in here for sure. For sure.
And in regards to like the spiritual
Mhm.
revival you said, and
Yes.
can you like, explain more of your reasoning behind that?
Well, keep in mind that these can go different ways, right? But Neptune is spirituality, right? It's a lot of things, but spirituality is one of the things that it wants to express, needs to express. Saturn builds.
Mm-hmm.
It it could it could go the way of giving, not that Neptune really has a form, right? It is more fluid. It's not quite so formed, but it could help to Saturn could help to give that spirituality of Neptune some sort of an outline or bones, if you will.
Right, right.
And with it going on in Aries, right? And Aries being the beginning, right? But it's not the total beginning because this is, I don't know when, but it's happened in Aries before at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of like jumper cables, like
Right.
jumping a car.
Right.
Um, but it's very here in the US anyway. This does feel like it would be very personal, right? Because it's conjunct the US's IC.
Mm-hmm.
So for this particular Saturn Neptune cycle, I do think it could go. I think that could totally play into this cycle. What you're talking about, absolutely. Now, how this impacts, like we were talking about before we ever started recording, how this impacts you watching this personally depends on your natal chart.
Yeah.
But from a lens of looking at the US and kind of collectively, people that live in the US citizens, whatever, it could play. Yes, this feels like this could be very much in line with what you're saying.
Is that Chiron in Aries? Is Chiron in Aries in the US's chart?
Yes, it is.
It's interesting.
Now, right now, this isn't right now. Keep in mind, this is 2026. So in 2026, it'll be at 23 degrees. We'll still be going, depends on what orb you use, but we would still kind of be going through the Chiron return of the US.
Yeah.
That started this year. Actually, it might have started last year. I can't remember exactly. I know it'll be exact next year. Like transit Chiron will be exactly conjunct the US's natal Chiron next year. I don't think it's this year. I believe it's next year. But yeah, it does make me think that we as a country, because the fourth house can also be like homeland.
Mm-hmm.
We could be in for some difficulty. Mm-hmm. Also keep in mind, Aries is like the god of war.
Right.
I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's not only just that though. I mean, it's, we got fucking Neptune. Just looking at Neptune by itself, we have fucking Neptune moving into Aries. We have fucking Uranus moving into Gemini. Last time Neptune was in Aries, we had the Civil War begin. All the times all the times Uranus has been in Gemini, and we've had Uranian returns, we've been at war.
Yeah.
Civil War, World War II. Both followed Pluto shit, whether that not a Pluto return, but Pluto square, Pluto opposition. So I do wonder about that, and if we could find ourselves at war with ourselves, but it's not going to look like how we think war looks. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to look like, we're not going to be standing there with cannons and fucking, it's, I don't know if it's going to be like that. It feels difficult.
And
I also think, oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, you can finish your thought.
I was gonna say, I also wonder about also with the Saturn Neptune thing, specifically, because we were talking about this before we jumped on. Another thing I think could come into play with Saturn conjunct Neptune is poisoning. Like toxicity. Now when I say that, I am not 100% sure if that's we realize something that has been poisoning us as a country, or if it's something that happens throughout this Saturn Neptune cycle. But it does, And you mentioned before, like, the head. Aries is like the head, right? It ties to that in, an actual, like medical astrology. So there is this thought of poisoning and toxicity. And I that's kind of concerning a little bit. Um Again, I want to make it clear how this plays out in your, how, depends on your chart, people that are watching this, but it definitely does stand out to me that that is another way that this could go. And then I think about, that the shit in Ohio, with the chemicals and all that shit, and other shit. And there's a part of me that wonders if we see more of that kind of shit, or if things like that happened during this particular Saturn Neptune cycle that we're in right now, if during this next one that happens, that starts off in 2026, if we realize that things have been fucking with us more than we realized before.
And when I think about spiritual revival, I think, like I grew up in church where we would pray for people, and we would like see visions, and people would have dreams, and we would like share and like consult with one another about what do these things mean. But then, like I've personally experienced where I've prayed for people and they've gotten healed.
Okay.
And I have like a couple of stories, but I think that with the Chiron return happening in Aries, and with the what is it? Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn being conjunct, I think that there's like an abundance. I just feel like we need to start like praying and healing people. Like that's the angle that I'm coming from, is that um and when I say like spiritual revival, I also feel that it's like this return to um who we are as like divine um divine fractals, or like tokens of like consciousness of like the higher source, the one source, that
Yeah.
gives life and death to all. And
Yeah.
talking about this within a different lens is weird. Talking about this is weird in the first place, because like I shed all of that, or I tried to, and now I'm like rebirthing it through like a much more ancient lens, which is through the lens of honoring the dragon and serpents, and like this connection that we have within this like cosmos, this like the hierarchy of the cosmos, and where we like stand and sit within all of that. And I think in order for people to want to heal, like we need to understand how much in pain we are. And I think this also comes back to that first, the like part one that we are talking about, Fed now, and like the Pluto retrograding back to like Pluto natal in the USA, and then the eighth house, Chiron, being there in the solar return in the eighth house, and how we we have like, and I say we like collectively, but like we have been birthed into like such like incredible and incredibly amazing and incredibly destructive times. Like the everyone who's alive right now, and um incredible in that there's so much there's so many amazing things with technology and like
Mhm.
food and medicine, yet we're destroying ourselves at the same time, um, because of the way that we participate in the systems that we must rely on to like uphold us. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that.
That's very true. It's very true because it's like it's kind of like these things are both like a blessing and a curse, right? Because they
Hmm.
can be used in wonderful ways, or they can be used to our detriment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
I, I, are we at like a 30-minute mark already?
I think so. I was gonna ask, was there anything else?
I mean, there are, yeah, I mean, I'm certain that there are very difficult times coming, but I think like, I guess one of the things that I wanted to get across and like share within, um, I guess with like the dragon energy is that I don't truly understand what it means to be a dragon. I just know that it's within me.
Okay.
And I think that that energy is awakening in people.
Oh yeah.
Um, and can you share your thoughts about that as
Oh,
well?
I just think people are, you know what? And another thing,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, the awakening thing that you're talking about that I do think is happening for a lot of people. A lot of the things that we are awakening from
Hmm.
have been put in place because, authority structures put it in place. Um, you call it powers that be, whatever terminology you want to use. We probably don't even know who the fuck they are, really. The people we think are in power are fucking figureheads. I'm that's just my opinion. But again, I can be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. So
Same. Yeah.
um but this conjunction here, um Neptune and Saturn, it could be, Neptune can also dissolve.
Hmm.
Saturn can also represent authority. It could be a dissolving of, it could be even more dissolving of these structures that authorities put in place, um
Um,
to have us believe, if you will, or have
hmm.
faith in,
Hmm.
that perhaps we shouldn't really, you know what I mean.
Hmm.
um so there could be even more of this energy coming about.
Right.
That certainly seems like another thing that could happen.
Mm. I I was at like this beautiful uh like red. I was in Brooklyn with someone I'm seeing last night, and I went to this I guess like this beautiful venue.
Okay.
Um and I spoke with the venue owner. Well, they're like co-owners, but I spoke with one of them and I was like, "Oh, are you a drag like you're a dragon?" And she was like, "How did you know?" And I explained why I knew. Which is not like anything like mystical. It's just like what I saw on their Instagram profile. But yeah, and then like, that instantaneous connection and that
Yep.
like instantaneous trust, and understanding, of the, I would say, like infinite wisdom that's within us. Um, and like it was just a very profound moment for me. I had a couple of drinks, but it was like very profound, and I was trying to understand, like, wow, me coming out as a dragon shaman, it's like now I'm gonna start like really connecting with other dragons too. And I'm ready for it. And I think Amaru, like Amaruka, the dragon, is like ready for the rebirthing of her children and like her identity as like the plumed serpent of Amaruka. And I think that the more that we respond to the awakening within us, the more like activation of like healing powers and like psychic abilities, and the more like trust that we have within like the serpent and like dragon energy within us. It's, I think like it's not just like a receiving thing from like higher dimensional dragons, but it's also like, you know, truly like an awakening thing of the wisdom that's within us, that's
Yeah.
innate in us. And your hair's blowing as we're talking about this, but
No, yeah, no, absolutely. It is. It comes from within the person. It's there might be some of it that also does come. Maybe it works in tandem. Maybe it both comes. Maybe it's activated here through something else. I don't, but it's
yeah,
there's definitely part of it, at least some of
yeah,
it, that is internal.
yeah. It is definitely like you said, in tandem. It's rising, so rising to the call that is within us, and then receiving support and help because of the intrinsic understanding of who we are on this earth. And so, or like on this dragon called Tiamat. And so, anyways, this I I'm so grateful for you, Ellie, and being able to speak about this, because Pluto, like, you know, like a lot of astrologers are very uncertain about a lot of changes and rebirth that's going to come, but I'm at the same time hopeful and
Yeah,
looking forward to how we can strategize and come together and like build
something better.
support, support, yeah, something better, absolutely, um, for families.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
something. Yeah, just yeah, because I mean, I'm I'm a Sagittarius, so there's a lot of I have a lot of optimism. I also have a Capricorn moon, so I tend to be optimistically realistic.
huh?
But I definitely do have hope that we utilize these different transits like that we talked about. Pluto and Aquarius. While this will be going on for a long time, but for 20 some years, and even Saturn conjunct Neptune, I want us to utilize these in the positive ways. I am optimistic that we can. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it's good talking to you, because at the end of the day, we just kind of laugh, you know?
Well, that's really all you can do. I mean, shit. I've
Yeah.
been doing that. I feel like most of my adult life. It seems like there's been one fucking catastrophe shit after another, and it's like after a while, it's just like you just have to fuck. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All you can do is yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank
Um,
you so much for wanting to talk about this. This was a really cool conversation. I enjoyed it.
yeah, thank you. Me as well. It was great.
And share where you can be found. Everybody, seriously, go check him out. He's got some cool shit.
Thank
Where
you.
can you be found?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Oogahwaez, Oogahwaez.
And I will also type that in the description box below so everybody can find you.
Thank you.
And I guess I will see all of y'all later.
Goodbye, everyone.